You know, when it came time to do my countdown of the top 100 Sega Dreamcast games of all time, it was a very unusual affair because I guess in most times in life when you're making a list, you really have a hard time gauging, objectively and comprehensively what number one is going to be. And for my Dreamcast countdown, it was actually kind of the opposite because I knew pretty much as soon as the idea hit me what the number one game would be, and of course it's this game right here, Shenmue, a game that is beloved, a game that is admittedly hated in some circles, but a game that more than any other I think comes to define what the Sega Dreamcast was and what its spirit remains to be to this day. Um, really what can be said about Shenmue that has not been said a million times before? It's a game that is very polarized, and there seems to be two camps behind the game. There are those that absolutely, adore the game and think that it's fantastic and innovative. They basically worship Yu Suzuki for making it, and they feel a lot of bitterness over the fact that we never got that third game, and in all likelihood, probably never will. And then, of course, there are the guys that just like to make fun of it and think it's cheesy and hokey and think it's a really overrated game. And obviously, I'm one of the earlier types of people because I absolutely adore this game. It's one of my 10 favorite video games of all time. It's easily my favorite game on the Dreamcast. And all in all, this might just be my single favorite video game experience of all time. To kind of go into what makes Shenmue such a different game. First off, this was a game that was totally unlike anything we'd ever played before. Just the level of immersion, the amount of things you could do. I think we're at a point now where video games haven't reached that common level of immersion, interactivity, until recently. So really, this game you're able to do stuff that were pretty much weren't able to do in the GTA games until 2008. In this game, circa 2000, this game was definitely, a good decade ahead of its time as far as things you could do and how you could build relationships and monkey around with the environment. And basically, it was a sandbox game before sandbox games were quite popular, and I spent many hours going to the arcade and playing darts and practicing my karate moves out in parking lots all across Dobito. Um, just so many wonderful memories of this game. The thing about this game is, it was really the first game I ever played where I actually felt a bit of emotion while I played it. I actually came to care about the storyline. I cared about the characters. I wanted to see Ryo Hazuki get some measure of peace out of his journey. And, we all played games in front of our parents, come from school and play Super Mario or Tecmo Super Bowl or whatever, and then get mad at us like, I want to watch Oprah, turn off that crap. This game is literally the only time in my life I recall my parents actually actively getting involved in the gaming experience. So when I come home from high school, or middle school actually, I'm still in 8th grade and play this game, my parents would start playing Shenmue. It's like, I want to know what happens to Ryo next. It totally took over our house. It became this massive experience. And, I've never had that experience with the game before or after. I've never really felt that emotion, that connection. Especially, some pretty great scenes in the game, like the part where Ryo's cousin breaks up his piggy bank and gives him his life savings, and the part where you're out with Nozomi in the park and it's just snowing, and she's confessing her feelings to you, and Ryo's just this young kid that's just filled with blind rage. It's a really sort of a coming of age story in a way about growing out of being a teenager and hitting adulthood and becoming your own person. I don't really get into the whole, metaphorical aspects of the game, but I think there are plenty, and it's a very deep and rewarding game. Obviously we've all heard the detractions. Yes, the voice acting is cheesy in some aspects, but I think overall, just the overall impact of this game, its influence, is pretty hard to state. Clearly, is on the cutting edge. We've seen so many games with QuickTime events after, and this is one of the first major games, I think, on a console to really kind of incorporate that and incorporate it well. When I think about Shenmue, I really don't think of the collective experience. I could, and I probably should, but it's more just sort of fleeting memories. Like there's that scene where you go out and you find a kitten in a box out in the middle of the village. And you can go out there and you can name it, and you can go to your house and, pick out powdered milk from the pantry and go and feed it, which I thought was really staggering how many of the games out there give you that option, that are that in-depth, that are that immersive. And immersive is a word I keep using over and over again, and I pretty much have to. Yu Suzuki, you know, this pioneer, he pretty much had to invent his own genre of gaming for Shenmue. F.R.E.E, whatever F.R.E.E stands for, I can't remember, I apologize. But looking back on it, this was the game the Dreamcast was pretty much built for. I think it is the single greatest game you will play on the console. I think if you had to play just one game that defined what the Dreamcast was about, this would be it. And kind of look at the box art here. I mean, it's just awesome. There are just, like I said, so many amazing, fantastic things about this game. The visuals were amazing. The storytelling was top-notch. The music, I thought, was utterly fantastic. You had the fighting system curved out of Virtua Fighter, which is fantastic. And, you know, just being able to run around, and the freedom this game gave you, you know, is pretty much unparalleled up until the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 came around. One of the things I really liked about the game, you know, just how deep it was. You have 4 discs. They didn't even bother giving you a gaming manual because there's just so much going on. They said, you know, here we go, we're going to give you a 4th disc, the Shenmue Passport, and that tells you pretty much everything you need to know. And I cherish all 4 of these discs. You know, this is one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had, and probably ever will be. And truth be told, you know, I probably will never get into a game again the way I got into this. Modern gaming, it's all stuff like Angry Birds and Skyrim, which is cool to some people, but to me, it's just not what I'm looking for. You know, Shenmue was just this pioneering game. It was so innovative and so cutting edge and did so many things, and was just this epic thing with a vision. And truth be told, you really don't see that anymore. In fact, you really don't see games like that since the Dreamcast has gone away. And that's why whenever I boot up the console and hear that loud-ass fan in the background, it fills me with the semblance of what gaming used to be, what it could have been, and, in my opinion, what it should have become. So really, what more can be said about Shenmue? It's a legendary game. It is a fantastic game. It's a beloved game, and it's a game that I think will continue to be adored and adulated, and might go on to be the cult game to end all cult games. Shenmue is a lot of things to a lot of people, but to me it remains not just one of my all-time favorite gaming experience, but far and away the single best game ever released on the Sega Dreamcast. So there you go. Congrats, Yu Suzuki. Congrats, Sega. It's $9.99 in my heart still. Thanks for the memories.